Hey there, DadGFN here, and today I'm going to be doing another tier list video on this channel. This time I'm going to be doing an updated Gravity Falls tier list that I made back in 2017. No, it was 2020, 2019 I made it, I don't know, but I made a tier list on Tier Maker for Gravity Falls books. Obviously since then there's been a couple more Gravity Falls books that have come out, so I thought I'd do a new tier list. And so I added all these books down here and whatnot. And I'm just gonna, before we start, I'm gonna add one row below. And the reason I'm gonna add this new row is because this is gonna be for books that I have not read, of which there are a couple of books that I've not read for Gravity Falls. So I'm gonna give this a different color. Yeah, there we go. So these are, so obviously, as you know the drill, S is going to be the top, like, best Gravity Falls books, D is going to be like worst Gravity Falls books, and D and this area is going to be for books that I've not read. So let's begin, and we're going to start with this, which is the 5th edition of the Gravity Falls science story books. Now, this book is exclusive only to Latin America. For some reason, the basically the publishing firm which made the Gravity Falls science story books back in like the early days, like Joe Books, like they went bankrupt a couple years back. But the Latin America firm that makes the version of the books still exists, so they continued making the books, but without the English reference. Like, I heard this from a friend of mine who is a contact of mine who is in Latin America, and they told me about this, so I'm gonna believe that there. I've never read it though, so yeah. And just so we're out of the way, I've never read any of the Gravity Falls science story books, be it the English ones or the Latin America ones which were made. So are these ones, like, these are all science story books and whatnot. These are science stories for the shorts. Like, one thing I really love about the short science stories is because, like, they have these original art for them, which is pretty cool. Like, you just don't see that with any other Gravity Falls science story books, which are just print, like, cutouts of, like, screenshots and whatnot. It's like, it's very basic, generic, like MS, like, Photoshop shit. But, like, these books had original art, which I really loved. So, I mean, back in the day, I probably would have bought them, but, like, I never did. But so I kind of have that regret. But yeah. Oh yeah. Also, there's the Weird Mageddon science story. Like, this is retelling of the Weird Mageddon episodes in comic book form. Never also got that. Wish I did, but I never will get it because, like, the firm no longer exists that made them. So yeah. Okay, so moving on. Speaking of comic books, we have Gravity Falls Lost Legends Barnes and Nobles exclusive. I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. I'm gonna put both of the Lost Legends books in the A tier. They're not S tier in my opinion, and my reasoning for that is that I'm just not a huge fan of the stories Come Mix Up and Don't Dimension It. Like, the Dipper and Pacifica story, like, Face It, I love that story. I also very love the last story with the Sand Twins, like them and their kids in their younger years. But I really I just don't like Come Mix Up and Don't Dimension. Like, I don't like Come Mix Up so much because, like, I mean, I really appreciate the artwork done on it because, like, the illustrations on Come Mix Up are some of the best that have been ever made for the show. Like, the artist team behind Lost Legends is just phenomenal, and, like, Alex really pulled it all out for that book. But, like, I'm not a fan of the story. Like, it just feels like, and, like, on top of that, like, Don't Dimension It. Like, do I even need to go into details about, like, my dislike of, like, the whole Mabel stuff? Like they made Dipper named a fault line after Mabel. Like, that's the most petty thing I've ever read, ever, in a book. Like, for not just for Gravity Falls, but any book I've ever read. Like, I mean, that kind of probably tells a lot about my literature palette. But I mean, I just hated that. Like, on top of that, I also hate the fact that it made Mabel out to be the sole cause of Weird Mageddon. No, she's not. Like, how many times do I have to explain this to people? Like, Mabel is about as guilty of causing Weird Mageddon as, I don't know, Dipper, Stan, and Ford are. Like, Ford and Dipper have probably had more to do with Weird Mageddon than Mabel did. But, like, you try telling that to Gravity Falls fans without getting a mouthful. And yeah, I just hated how the book treated that whole aspect. Like, it felt less like a book story that Alex Hirsch would write for Gravity Falls, and more like something that a disgruntled Gravity Falls fan would have him write. Like, they probably just forced him to write this story. Like, it just didn't feel Gravity Fallsy in my opinion. And for that reason, I have to put the Lost Legends books in an A tier. Like, they're good books. Like, I appreciate the stories and I love the illustrations and even the stories that I don't like. But it's just like my reason. Like, this book was so much wasted potential. Like, they could have used Calm Mix-Up or Don't Dimension It to be a story focused on developing Wendy's character. They could have focused on Tremblay. They could have focused on more Pacifica development, more, I don't know, McGuck and Ford making amends for their mistakes in the past. Like, this book could have been utilized for so much better things than what it ended up being. And like, I don't agree with people who say, oh, but Lost Legend was just a fun-off little story. Like, all the stories are just meant for fun. Like, okay, if it was meant for fun, then why does Don't Dimension It exist? Because that is clearly a story made to deal with the Gravity Falls fandom's discouragement about Mabel. Like, there's no reason for that story to exist other than for that reason. So I would be perfectly fine with Lost Legends if it was just a book meant for fun, but like, Don't Dimension It ruins that entire aspect. And I mean, maybe you could argue Face It is also, but Face It was actually good with being a fun story and developing Pacifica. Don't Dimension It just... yeah. I love the story, like, I love the concept of it, but I just dislike the execution of it. It's my roadside attraction, you could say. Like, Gravity Falls fans always BS roadside attraction, but like, I like that episode. But this is my actual roadside attraction in the sense that, like, I dislike this. So, yeah, unfortunately, Don't Dimension It, just it was a disappointment. Like, Lost Legends could have been just a much better book had it been focused on actual development and storytelling and whatnot. So on that aspect, so like, I don't dislike Lost Legends, but I just wish it could have been better. It could have been so much better. And after a year of waiting, like it's taken me a long time to accept that fact, because I really wanted to like Lost Legends more than I do right now. But like, yeah. But moving on, here's a book that I think everybody can agree with me in disliking. It's the stupid Tales from the Unexplained Bedtime Stories book. Like, what the fuck was Disney thinking about this? Like the this was the most sleazy money grab ever. Like, this book exists for the sole purpose of milking the remaining little, like, milk in the very dry titties of, to this day. It's just milking the cow to its final drop. And not even in a good way. Like, there are better ways to milk Gravity Falls. Like, fans would kill for an art book right now. Like I'd give anything for a Gravity Falls art book. Like, I would much rather spend my money on a Gravity Falls art book than this piece of shit. And yeah, we got this piece of shit instead of the actual cheese. Like, this is like an art book would be like Parmesan. It would be like the caviar of the Gravity Falls arsenal of books. Like, this is like low budget $1 New York shitty like pizza and stuff, or this is like a 2-cent biryani or something you get from like a restaurant from the East End of Toronto or something. Don't ask me how I know that reference. I've had biryani. I know good biryani when I've had it. Other than that, like, but yeah, like, yeah, this book sucks. This book is absolute horrible. This is a book that I don't know much about, but it's a book called 135 Things You Need to Know About Gravity Falls or something, whatnot, and like, it's written by an author I've never heard of, and I just don't know, but like, this book is always for sale on like Barnes and Nobles and Indigo for like $30 or something, and I'm just like, why is this book so expensive? Like, I've never seen it being sold or anything. It's like, I mean, I added it in because, like, yeah, it's a book that exists, but I don't know what the usage of it is. Like, I've never even run into anybody who has it. Like, I asked people on the Gravity Falls subreddit about it once, but like, people on the Gravity Falls subreddit care about this stuff like this as much as, I don't know, politicians do. But like, yeah. Like, I've never heard of anything about this book, so I don't know anything about it. And then here's just a couple of like Russian Latin America books that I've never heard of, but I've been told they exist, and I've had people who have told me that's another side story, by the way. So yeah, like, those books are kind of interesting, but I never read them, never will, because why not? Moving on. Dipper and Mabel's Guide to Mystery and Nonstop Fun. I really love this book. I have to give it an 8 tier though, because like it's not the best Gravity Falls book, but like it's a great book nonetheless. There's some good activities and stuff. It's very much a book from its time, because this was published prior to season 2 premiering, but it has a couple of season 2 tidbits. And no, actually it did come out when season 2 began, but it was written in the sense that took place before season 2, so that was interesting. A great book though, really recommended. Gravity Falls Mad Libs, I mean, it's what it is. It's a Mad Libs book. Nothing much interesting in it. Like, I mean, when this book was coming out, it was advertised as having some brand new stories and stuff, and those weren't in there. But I mean, it's not a bad book, but I'm not a fan of it either, so I'm just gonna leave it in C tier. It's not a bad book though. Dipper and Mabel and the Curse of the Time Pirate's Treasure. I love this book. This book is so underappreciated. Like, all the Gravity Falls fans talk about this book as the axolotl poem, and that isn't even in the book itself. Like, it's a side page and stuff. So, like, I really love this book for what it is. Like, the stories are so creative. Like, Jeff Roy and Emmy Ciceriega really did a good job on this book. Like, Emmy's illustrations are some of the best I've ever seen. There's some of the most beautiful Gravity Falls artwork I've seen ever out there. And I just really love this book. Like, it's not canon, but it's just so funny. Like, there's some really funny like revelations and stuff. Like, Dipper was forced to play the piano as a kid by his parents, even though he wanted to play the sousaphone. Mabel got suspended in 3rd grade once because he started a police investigation and whatnot. She even had a cowgirl phase and whatnot. And like, yeah, this book is really fun. Like, I recommend this book to be read by any Gravity Falls fan who is just yearning for more Gravity Falls content and they've read every other book. Like, this book is not canon, so bear that in mind, but it's a really fun book. Like, I cannot recommend it enough. It's just such a great book to read, and I really enjoyed reading it. And I mean, ignoring the axolotl poem and whatnot, it's still a great book. Don't color this book, it's cursed. I'm going to give this an 8 tier as well, because I definitely like the coloring book. The Gravity Falls coloring book is a bit weird because like it's so under talked about, but it has this really fun story inside of it. Like, you have to color the book to save Dipper from being eaten up by like a color monster and stuff, and then there's a new color at the end. Also, there's a QR code at the back of this book which leads you to a podcast by Seuss called Seusscast. Side note, Lost Legends also has something similar like that. But yeah, like, the Seusscast podcast is one of the funniest things ever. Like, it's still around, like, if you do a bit of digging. Like, I'll leave a link to it, but like, it's a great podcast. I definitely recommend you listening to it. Great book. It was definitely a fun activity to do back in the summer of 2017. Like, I remember reading this book and just having a lot of fun with it. So there's that. Happy Summerween and the Convenience Store of Horror. This was the very first Gravity Falls book. It's just a picture book retelling the stories of Summerween and the inconveniencing, like the A-plots. So like Dipper and the gang going trick-or-treating, and then like the inconveniencing episode when they're like going to the abandoned convenience store. So there isn't really much anything new in it. It's just a retelling of those episodes. Like, I think every single Disney show has these types of book. Like the Owl House also has one, so it's not anything big, but there are stickers in it, which is pretty cool. Okay, the flagship of them all, Journal 3 and Journal 3 Special Edition. Do I even need to say anything about these books? They are the flagships for a reason. Like, they're the Gravity Falls books that everyone knows about, because why? Of course, everybody will know about this. I mean, they're the 2 Gravity Falls books that every Gravity Falls fan should have. Well, I mean, this book at least. I mean, Journal 3 Special Edition is, I mean, unless you are like Jeff Bezos or something, then, I mean, you can't buy this. But like, yeah, like, it's a great book. I really, really do love Journal 3. I own like not only the original Journal 3, but I also own a signed copy of Journal 3, which I managed to get from Barnes & Nobles during their Black Friday sale last year. So that's pretty cool. Back in 2020, like, I'm really grateful I had that book, because like, it's really nice to have a signed Gravity Falls book, or sign anything really, so that's great. I don't even need to tell you anything about the Gravity Falls book Journal 3, because like, everybody knows already about them. So yeah, there's that. Journal 3 is just a great book. I genuinely enjoyed it, and it's a book that every Gravity Falls fan should read at least once. To end it off, now we're just going to have the Gravity Falls chapter books, so Pining Away and Once Upon a Swine. Again, like the Summerween book, it's just retelling of episodes. Like, these are both chapter books. Like, this one is romance focused, while this one is Waddles focused. So this book retells the story of Double Dipper and the Hand That Rocked the Mabel, while this book retells the story of the Time Traveler's Pig, and The Land Before Swine. So really, they're just black and white chapter books, nothing really big. Like, these are the type of books you'd probably see at the Scholastic Book Fair or something back in 2014 or whatnot when these books came out. But like, yeah, there's nothing really big about them. They're not bad books, but they're not perfect books either, so that's why I put them in the middle in B tier. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That is my Gravity Falls book tier list. Obviously at the top is good books like Journal 3 and Time Pirates book. A tier is Lost Legends and the guidebook and the coloring book. B tier the retelling books. C tier is the Mad Libs because it's not bad, but it's not a great book either. And then D is obviously the shitty retelling bedtime stories book. And then below that are the books I've not read. So like foreign books and comic books that are, again, all these books are retelling of something. I don't know about the Russian books, but yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the thing where people are going to disagree with me on is the Lost Legends thing, because like I think a lot of people see Lost Legends as an S tier book. I mean, I really wish it was an S tier book in my eyes. Like, I want to say it was an S tier book, but I just cannot get myself to say that, because there's just so many things I dislike about Lost Legends that I just cannot have it be an S tier. I mean, I don't hate the book. Like, anybody who thinks that I hate the book is looking at it in the wrong way. I don't dislike Lost Legends. I enjoy reading it. It was a great book to read, and I still look back at it fondly. But it's just, I just wish it could have been so much more. Like, it could have been a much better book than it was. And I remember I've heard different takes on it. Like, some people have said that it was just Alex's excuse to work with a couple of comic book illustrators he liked because they comics up and stuff. But like, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I wish Lost Legends could have been a better book in terms of telling other stories, like, if it was going to go down that path. But yeah, like, it should have either been a book dedicated to character building and development, or it should have been a book dedicated specifically to goofing off and having some fun, lighthearted stories. Like Comics Up, I wouldn't have a problem with it if the whole book was like that. In the same way, I wouldn't have a problem with Don't Dimension It if the book was more focused on stuff like that. So like, maybe we had a Wendy story or something, whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I gotta say, like, that's all I got. I'm gonna go now. Thanks for watching, and bye.